Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. Let's look at some actual things that are written in the Bible. God actually came and spoke with some people in the Bible. The first person he spoke with was the man that he made. He made with his own hands out of the dust of the earth, which was Adam in Genesis 3:9-19. God spoke with Adam personally as he walked in the garden. Adam said, "I heard your voice walking in the garden. I heard you speaking as you walked in the garden." And then he spoke directly to Noah. He came to Noah, the righteous man, had his family under subjection, and God saw fit to speak with Noah. How I view that, speaking with Noah, how I view the situation there, if you'll go back and read there where God met Noah, and God had, we'll say, like a spyglass looking through it at individuals, and he'd been looking all over the earth for one that was a star, one that had light in him, one that was righteous. And he was looking. He had gone through man after man after man, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, even billions. And all of a sudden he came onto this man that was righteous in the eyes of God, Noah. And God took the initiative to come and speak to this man personally, because amongst the whole world here was a righteous man, Genesis 6:13-21. And then he spoke directly to Abraham. First time he spoke to Abraham, Abram, his name was Abram, and he was not following God. He was a worshiper of false gods. His dad was an idolater, he was an idolater, and God spoke to him and said, "Do what I ask you to do, and I will bless you and change your name, and you will become the head of my earthly kingdom. On earth, you'll be the first Jewish person on the earth." And God gave that promise to Abraham. And then he spoke directly to Moses. God spoke directly to Moses, perhaps, I don't know for sure, but more times than anybody else maybe. And he spoke in Exodus 20:1-17. He spoke to Moses and commanded him what he was to do. Moses, of course, argued with God, but God said, well, I'll give you Aaron to speak for you. Moses had a lisp, and people couldn't understand him well, but God chose to use this man in the Bible. He spoke directly to Joshua. Joshua was God's captain of the guard on the earth for a while. He was the man that stood between God and the enemy, and the people and the enemy. He was Psalm champion. Joshua was Psalm champion. And God, he obeyed what God said for him to obey. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Joshua obeyed everything God commanded him to do. That was the thing, was obedience. God spoke directly to Samuel, a man who did disobey God and one time or another. And he spoke directly to him. And he spoke directly to Nathan about David, when David had sinned. And God told Nathan to go tell him about the story of a guy with the one sheep and the man that stole his one sheep. And he went and told him that. God spoke directly to Elijah. And better than that, he took Elijah up in a whirlwind afterwards. This was a man that pleased God. God spoke directly to Jeremiah, Jeremiah 1:4-4 and 5. He spoke directly to this man. And I probably, if God spoke to me and told me what he told Jeremiah, that nobody's going to listen to you, that you're going to walk across this earth for the years that you're here to do it, and nobody's going to listen to you, and you're going to have stones thrown at you and everything else. Jeremiah probably would have been discouraged before he started. And then he spoke to a man with a still small voice. Wow. And that still small voice told that man some things that were unreal. And then he spoke through nature. We see in the Psalms that God said that the heavens declare his handiwork. Psalm 19, 1-3. The heavens declare his handiwork. And because the heavens declare his handiwork, and the earth declares his handiwork, we see that he spoke this way. He spoke through one man, and that's a comical thing in a sense. And every time I've studied it, I've laughed. This poor guy was a prophet of God, but he had got so far out on the side that he was so far out of proportion that he couldn't hear God speak to him, and God had to spoke through the mouth of an ass. In Numbers 22:28, he has Balaam, and he's been asked to curse his own people, and he is the prophet of his own people, and he thinks that he could get away with it. And what was the reason? This particular time, it wasn't a woman that was beguiling the man, it was the love of money. It was the love of getting something, and the notoriety and the money. And so therefore God had to use the ass to show him there's an angel standing there. Balaam, he's not only going to kill you, but he's going to cut my head off too if we go through that pass. So we couldn't go through that pass. Wow, isn't that something? And then he spoke to men through dreams. There was a number, many men that God spoke to through dreams, through this method of dreams. Jacob received consummation of the Abrahamic covenant in a dream, Genesis 28 and 12. And then Solomon received both wisdom and warning in a dream. It was a dream that Solomon got his wisdom and the warning to use that wisdom in a godly manner and no other way. And so therefore we need to see these things that God used through the years, and how God did things. And it's funny how I can leave my notes and just walk away from them for 1 second and lose my place. Wow, Joseph. Wow, Joseph in the New Testament received 3 messages and 3 dreams when he took his wife to be his bride, Mary. And according to him, Mary's purity in Matthew 1 and 20, commanding him to flee to Egypt, he spoke to him about Mary's purity. Mary, he said, was pure. You take her and don't you do anything different. We don't know all of the conversation that God had with Joseph and what God might have done with Joseph. Man, there's some things we don't see there. He opened Joseph's mind and heart, and no telling what he did with Joseph during that period of time. And Solomon received both wisdom and warning in a dream. And Joseph in the New Testament received 3 messages from him about Mary's purity, commanded him to flee to Egypt, ordering him to return to Palestine. By the way, when you hear the word Palestine, that was the area where Jerusalem was. That was Jerusalem, Samaria, and the uttermost parts around it there was Palestine. What has happened now to Palestine, as far as God's concerned, Palestine is still Palestine. But here's Jerusalem over there today. Here are the Jews over there today. Israel over there today, fighting with its neighbors, when truthfully its neighbors are on its land. All of Palestine belonged to the Jewish people originally. All of Palestine was originally Jewish land. And the wise men were warned of Herod in a dream. We're talking about those that were warned in a dream, or those that were told in a dream about something. As the wise men were told in a dream, Matthew 2 and 12. He spoke to men through visions. We got this guy. I've got all kinds of books behind me, and I've got Strong's Concordance up there, and I've got Unger's up there, and I've got several of them. And Unger's Bible Dictionary defines a vision as a supernatural presentation of certain scenery or circumstances to the mind of a person while he is awake. That's what a vision is. A vision, if you're asleep, it's a dream. If you're awake, it's a vision. And a vision to an awake man, it may be noted, the scripture had many unique methods of God speaking to people. He spoke to them in times past. Remember that sentence. In times past, he spoke in dreams and visions and those things. Not now, but that's a times past thing. And so here we are. We've come up now to where we're in the New Testament here. But in the visions, we're talking about the visions. We'll do a quick list of visions, and then we got 3 minutes here to do it. Daniel saw the great Gentile power in a vision. Daniel 7 and 8. Daniel saw the glories of Christ in a vision. Daniel 10, 5 through 9. Daniel saw the rise and fall of Alexandria and the great Alexander the Great in a vision, Daniel 8. Ezekiel saw a regarding of Israel in a vision, the regathering of Israel, Ezekiel was the one who proclaimed that the United States of America would pick up Israel and bring her back home. That she would come back on the back of the United States of America to her home, and did. Ananias was ordered to minister to Saul in a vision, Acts 9 and 10. Boy, do I love that story. Read that in Acts 9 and 10. It is so good. And then listen to this. Cornelius was instructed to send for Peter in a vision, Acts 10, 3 through 6. I love this. He sent for Peter to come tell Paul. Peter was ordered to minister to Cornelius in a vision, Acts 10 and 10. Now remember, these two people, they didn't know each other in a sense, and that one's told to send for one and the other one's told to go to one. So the sending and the call and the answer were given to each one of them. Paul was confronted at Jerusalem in a vision, Acts 23:11. Paul viewed the glorious of the third heaven. Listen to this, 2 Corinthians 12, 1 through 4. If you look at that, you'll see that Paul actually, whether he was in the body or out of the body, he knew not. He actually, God carried him and gave him a picture of heaven for a second or two there. Wow. I believe that's why God did not take away the thing that plagued Paul in his life. That Paul wanted to go to heaven. He said, man, I'd love to go to heaven, but it's needful for me to stay here. And our time is about come and gone, so we've got to go there. Apostle Paul, we're going to stop there. The Apostle Paul wrote the book of Revelations in a true vision, where 303 verses of Revelation is direct quotes from the Old Testament, and John had to be able to do that. The Holy Spirit entered in him and gave him the recall for that. I'll see you next time. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word.